Hey, it's Del Jackson. We got a special Zoom here today with Coach Mike Grassel from Dallastown. York Adams recap. That's what we call it. Coach, I look back at our postings on LO Hoops, and it's been about a year since we've done this. So let's get caught up. Let's talk about your team. How you guys doing? I saw you over the holiday break, and you guys split at a tournament. So let's give us a little rundown on what you guys are doing.
Yeah, we have a young group, really fun group to coach. Play really well together. Not much size, which being a 6A school, the size that we are is amazing. But I mean, you have to play the cards that you're dealt. And a great group of guys share the ball really well. We had an aesthetically pleasing game against Penn Manor. For anybody who liked offense, it was back and forth the first three quarters. I think they ended up going into the fourth up to off of Benny. We had a Christmas present with Ethan Benny being back, and he impressed. Ended up with 29, I think, in both games in the tournament. But very back and forth, great offense, and we had a few turnovers down the stretch, and Penn Manor, finished it out in the fourth quarter, and then we had the tale of two halves against Lancaster Catholic, the game you were at. First half, we couldn't hit the ocean if it was in front of us. We just couldn't find a bucket. We had 12 points. I thought the energy was there. I thought defensively we were solid, holding Lancaster Catholic to 18. So at halftime, we were pretty calm, and we just said we have to knock down some shots. We have to keep getting stops. And then we proceed to come out in the second half and score 41 points. So when the ball's going in, it makes you look a heck of a lot smarter than when you can't put it in the ocean. So
Yeah, you guys. I mean, I was at that game. You guys got some things off, some sets off a high screen, which was good. And then you roll McNeely down there, who's left-handed, and he's getting the ball going on the left side and scoring. So that was pretty good. How are you guys doing in your league?
we're 2-2. We beat York High in dramatic fashion. We hit a three at the buzzer to beat them. We lost to Central York, who's loaded, ton of talent. I know they lost to Wilson over the break, but they're definitely one of the three or four teams up there for district contention. We lost to a well-coached Red Line team. We did not shoot well that game, but Red Line has a nice freshman, and their best player is out right now. He'll be coming back. That'll make them even tougher here after the break. And then we beat Southwestern right before Christmas. So in our league, it's pretty much Central and then everybody else, in all the divisions. Division One, Spring Grove's playing pretty well right now. I know they split over at the Eastern Holiday Tournament. They beat Conestoga Valley and then lost to Eastern. Eastern York, Division Two. Eastern York is up there. New Oxford's playing well. West York, I would say there might be four teams that could win Division Two in York Adams, between New Oxford, Eastern, uh, West York, and then York Suburban. York Suburban's playing really well as well. And then Division Three, Littlestown was the favorite coming in. They've stumbled lately. York Catholic's playing solid. I know Lancaster Catholic got them the first game of the year, but they've kind of bounced back since then. And the lone Catholic's usually pretty tough down there. So
So you guys have 3 sections?
yeah, three. No
Okay.
crossovers. And then we get 3, 2, and 2 in the playoffs, and the eighth team is the best power rankings from Division 2 and 3. So whoever,
Oh, okay.
usually it's 3, 3, and 2 usually.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. That's an interesting way of doing things. So you mentioned some of these teams, coach, and the nice thing about I'll call it preseason. It's not preseason, but it's non-league season early on. Is I get to see some of these teams. So I saw York, I saw Central York live, I saw York Suburban, and I've seen Spring Grove. So I've seen some of the teams that you've mentioned, and I know my buddy Andy has seen some of them too. So
Mhm.
it's kind of good to get a flavor, at least from the LL side, of what's going on the other side of the river. That's all I'm going to say. Get on the other side of the river. So, hey, talk to me about Penn Manor. You guys got a special game coming up. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we play them Saturday. I think it might be at Millersville, Saturday afternoon now. That's not officially confirmed yet, but they're tough. I mean, they were tough on tape. Ethan Benny is very good basketball player. He makes everybody around him better. He's a matchup problem. Our athlete who you saw, Jalen Cook, heck of a football player. He had that dunk in the first half for us. He's was following them all around on Friday night, and he tried to slow him down and did the best he could. And Ethan just makes everybody around them better. And then you have the shooter number 1,
Lauer.
Lauer, and the big guy. I mean, there's not many people who can put a big guy in the middle. That's going to Nova
Yeah.
play football, and he had that big game on Saturday. So they have a really really nice squad, and I know Coach Bilyeu. I know they struggled going into break without Ethan, but now that he's back, they're a formidable team, and it'll be that game Friday was a really good basketball game because we both made shots.
Yeah.
We know night to night that doesn't happen. They shot 50% from 3. We were shooting 50% going into the fourth quarter. I think we ended up shooting 40% from 3. So not often that teams combine for 45% behind the arc. So it'll be a nice matchup, and it'll be cool if our guys get an opportunity to play at Pasilla.
Yeah. Yeah. Playing on the college court is always an interesting thing. And a nice thing for Penn Manor is they don't have to spend a lot of money on bus and transportation that night. They can just walk right over and
Right.
get their parking spot and dress in their own locker room and all that good stuff. So
Right.
I'm looking forward to that. I think we might, I think somebody from our hoops crew will be there. Let me ask you this, as we're talking, what gym for you is the hardest gym to play on as you go into the gym? Like what gym is tough to play in? I know you got to be politically correct here, but pick one, and if you want to pick two, it's like, you know what, these two are the ones that we struggle with, or these two are fun to go in because.
We do not shoot the ball well at red line for whatever reason. It's the backdrop, the bigger gym. I don't know why it is, but we don't shoot the ball. We never really shot the ball really well at red line. And probably, I mean, I don't know. I like those old small gyms. I do. I mean, when I played at Elizabethtown, I always loved going to Garden Spot. I mean, just people on top of you. And York Suburban has that feel to it. We didn't. I can't stand coaching in it because I'm on the court. Like you stand up, you're on the court,
Mhm.
which is not ideal, and the refs don't love that, and I get that. But it's tough to play in because the fans are on top of you, and you can hear everything. It's one of those old gyms, kind of like the old Garden Spot gym. It kind of reminds me of that. So.
It's always interesting, it's like, okay, what gyms are tough to play in, and the LL's got a couple bandboxes as well, and they always it's just sometimes that home floor, the smaller court is an advantage, and sometimes I tell you what, you probably had a lot of big gyms in your area, and sometimes the big gyms are good too if you get a lot of people in. Sometimes the big gyms aren't so good when it's there's 500 people in there and it's built for 3,000. So, it's always an interesting thing for me. Let me ask you this, coaching wise.
Mhm.
So we're January 1 right now, and you
Mhm.
played, how many games you played? Eight, nine?
We played 7. We did not. We got out of York Suburban's tip-off tournament late last year, so our schedule is a little backloaded. So now we go 1, 2. We have like 3 straight weeks of three game weeks here coming up.
Okay. So you played 7. Breakdown is 20 plus, 22, 21, whatever the PIAA does with these playoffs and things like that, which I don't know. I would like it just to go to 24 and the playoffs are the playoff. It's like that. Everybody's on an even playing field, but I kind of get that. So as a coach, you got 7
Mhm.
games in. I'm probably going to write a column today. It's like, look, at this point, everybody kind of knows what they have and what they don't have. And as you go into the rest of your league, what type of things are you guys focusing on? Well, like, are you looking at district points? Are you just looking at game to game? Or I know what the coach answer is, but
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, okay, we're at right now, January, and I know you're sitting there and saying, okay, this is what we do well, this is what we need to improve on, this is what we can do to win games. So how do you look at the rest of the season?
We break it into little. I mean, we'll take this week as like a 3 game season. We try and break it down week by week. So not to look too far ahead. And for me, I mean, like I'll watch film. I have to watch film on We have McCaskey on Wednesday. So we've watched film on ourselves, but staying ahead of the scouting. The nice thing is when you hit people a second time, you've already scouted them once. So you're more looking at seeing what they've changed, how their personnel has changed, who's healthy for them, who's not. The second time through, it's a little easier to scout. But like we have 2 of our 3 games this week are the first time we're seeing them. So we have McCaskey Wednesday, we have Spring Grove at home on Friday, and then we go back to Penn Manor. Penn Manor will be second time we've seen them. So I mean that scout's not gonna. I mean, heck, our first scout, like we had Benny on the scouting report, not knowing when he'd be back. But I was just as surprised as everybody else when I walked in the gym on Monday. He had it, or on Friday, and he had his uniform on, because it's 2 very different teams, with Benny, without Benny. And you saw that in the 2 games they played without him.
Right.
So we're just trying to keep our stuff, fine tuning our stuff, making sure we're going through. Like you said, we're running a lot of Princeton type stuff this year. So staying crisp, and we have to shoot it well. So there's a lot of skill work, a lot of shooting in our motion, our different motions, and getting guys in spots. So working on game speed and them catching and shooting in those spots. And then fine tuning our defense and rebounding. But this time of the season, the kids love it because it's game practice. But as a coach, it's
Yeah.
I'd love the football schedule. I mean, heck, I'd like to go to 18 games and not feel, having 2 games a week for
Uh,
9 weeks would be ideal.
but then I wouldn't get to see the York County teams,
Sure.
the Berks teams, and the Mid-Penn teams and all that stuff. So, hey, Spring Grove, I've seen you guys. I think match up well with them. McCaskey, I've seen they got the one big guy that might cause you some problems, a Kuma kid. But
Mhm.
both those teams are like guard oriented. And looking at your team, you're more or less guard oriented too. So, um, I don't know if you're going to get a 6'6" kid to can play in the middle before you play Penn Manor again, but I'm sure you make adjustments. It's always neat to see coaches first game to second game
Yeah.
what adjustments, because like you said, not only have you seen him on tape, which is different than seeing him in person, and now you see him in person, it's like, okay, we got to take away that out of bounds play because they killed us with it. So, it's like you're going to do that, but the other team might counter or they might come up with something different. It's always to me, the chess match is always interested. The players are the players. Speaking of players, the guy from York, the guard, I don't know his name off a hand.
York High,
Yeah, yeah,
Jewels Tucker.
that's the one. That's the
He
guy.
can play. He can
Oh,
play.
he impressed me so much at over at McCaskey. The first half on somebody said, "Well, he's a like a D1 guy," and I'm like, "Well, I'm looking." I'm like, and then all of a sudden, the second half, he took the game over. I mean, and it
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily scoring. It was getting his teammates involved. It was rebounding. It was run. It was he's one of the better players I've seen this year. From that position by far.
There's a lot of individual talent in the area in York, and I mean LL has, you have Troyer and Benny, and there's other guys as well, but York, you have Central York's got their big three, with Guidinger and Natal and Rill, York High. Like I said, Redline's best players, a left-handed version of Ethan Benny. He's about 6'5". Joe Sedora can shoot it, super heady. So there's a lot of individual talent in the area. And I think, local AAU basketball, like McNeely, who had a good tournament for us, he plays with Benny on LA Elite. So like the what used to just be like our conference, like, yeah, they all kind of blend together for these kids, and they're playing against each other or with each other, all spring and summer, and then go back to their school teams, come the fall. But the individual talent is really, really high, I think, right now in the area. And then we're not even talking Mid-Penn, which
Yeah.
is always the Mid-Penn. I mean, they're a beast amongst themselves.
Yeah, that's an interesting take. I don't think our individual talent on the LL side is as probably as good as it has been recently. I mean, we got a couple standouts, which you've mentioned. Zach Kirk from Octorara, he's pretty good as well. But it doesn't seem like we have that type of player that you're seeing night in and night out, which should make, I think, for an interesting District 3 tournament too.
Mhm.
There's no Reading High out there in the big boys. I mean, Reading High is still Reading High, but they're not. They've lost some talent and new coach and all that. So it's not that scary. Like, okay, hopefully we can get in and maybe not play Reading in the first round or the second
Mhm.
round. So I think that's gonna be good. You guys gotta get to work to get in that tournament now.
We got it. Yeah, this is a big week for us here. I mean, we have some non-league games that are in the next few weeks that we need to find ways to get wins to put ourselves in a better situation. Like you said, 6A is, I mean, it's all who you get, like what your matchup is going in. And there's really not much room for error, where 5A, you might be able to get in at 500. That you have to be 4, 5, 6 games over 500 if you're Dallastown or Penn Manor or Cedar Crest, and Cedar Crest, just seeing them on film, they look like they have now they shot the ball really well when they played Penn Manor the first time. But they look like they're a force to be reckoned with. They size and some athletes to go along with it. You got Carlisle is tough. Like you said, Reading, I mean Wilson, their win over Central York, and then the next night Henfield turns around and gets them. There's a lot of parity. There's a ton of parity that on any given night, I think, there's nobody's rolling in the gym and just blowing people out.
It's gonna be a fun tournament this year. I really think so. We might not have state champion type caliber teams, but we got a lot of even teams. We're gonna see some teams. We're gonna see some of the mid-pen teams at the LL mid-pen shootout at Central. So that's always good for us to see different teams, and I like going to tournaments and seeing you guys play and
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you, Coach, for spending some time with us on New Year's Day. Happy New Year's to you. May your kids shoot better foul shots in the next year. I mean, I always throw that out. It's like, okay, you guys are shooting 60%. Let's get that sucker up to 65. And you guys are shooting 65. Let's get up to 70. And if you are shooting 70, let's get it up to 75 and 80. So, we can win that. So so very good. Hey, let's do it again in a couple weeks, okay?
All right, thanks, Dell. Happy New Year.
All right, same to you, buddy. Thank you for hanging with us today.